Right. That we will start our Selma City Council special meeting. It is April 1st, 2024, 4:02 PM in the Selma City Council chambers at 1710 Tucker Street, Selma, California, 93662. The teleconference phone number is 301-715-8592. The webinar ID is 891-6864-5005. When on the phone, if you wish to address the council during the public comment portion of the agenda, press star 9 to raise your hand and we will select you from the meeting queue. Press star 6 to unmute and mute yourself. Would you call the roll, please, City Clerk?
Councilmember Garrett.
Here.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro.
Here.
Councilmember Trujillo.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho. Mayor Robertson.
Here, potential conflicts of interest. Any council member has a potential conflict of interest may now identify the item and recuse themselves from discussing and voting on the matter. Agenda changes or deletions to better accommodate members of the public or inconvenience in the order of presentation. Items on the agenda may not be presented or acted upon in the order listed. Additions to the agenda may be added only pursuant to California Government Code Section 54954.2B. Oral communications. At this time, any member of the public may address the City Council regarding any item on the special meeting agenda over which the council has jurisdiction. No action or discussion will be taken on any item not on the agenda. Issues raised will be referred to the city manager for review. Members of the public are asked to limit their remarks to 3 minutes. Do we have any oral communications at this time about the special meeting?
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, City Council, City Manager. I'm Shar Tucker, representing the Chamber, and I just wanted to come and just speak to you briefly about why we rejected the proposal. We felt that when we were to meet with the city manager, that it would be an opportunity for us to find some common ground, something that would work for the chamber and something that would work for the city. But instead, we walked into a PowerPoint that was obviously had been worked on for quite some time, and there was really no discussion at that point. So taking it back to the board, they rejected that proposal. They felt that if the city needed to hire a
Mayor, I believe the oral communication should be about anything unrelated to the agenda items. I believe that that's the order of things.
Okay, city attorney.
Yeah, I mean, typically we handle public comments when that item is raised and then this is for any other general public comments.
Well, we've had a city
But
attorney.
we only have one item, so I mean, you guys can handle it how you wish, but typically you guys would get your presentation, make your comments, and then allow the public to comment on the item.
Well, and I believe Ms. Tucker would probably have more time to speak during the regular discussion and not limited to 3 minutes. It'd probably make more sense to have her discuss that.
What would you prefer, Ms. Tucker?
whatever works for you.
Okay, if you're good with that, you can address the council during the body because this is the item that's going to be on the agenda.
Okay.
Just for the record, I have heard from a previous city attorney that they could say anything they want during public comment. So I mean, you could go on, but you'd be limited to 3 minutes anyway.
Okay.
So
I'll wait. Thank
thank you for that. Anybody else have any items on oral communications tonight about the special meeting? Anybody online or, okay, with that, we'll bring it back and we will kick off our study session, which is on the Selma District Chamber of Commerce MOU.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. As you know, we are here to discuss the agreement between the City of Selma and the Selma District Chamber of Commerce. And the agreement that's in place currently was originally adopted in 1994. So a good 30 years ago. And obviously there is a lot has changed since then. And the city has changed, has evolved, different staff. Certainly the situation at the chamber has evolved as well with staff and the way that they operate as well. And so in previous discussions with the leadership at the Chamber of Commerce, it was agreed by both city staff and their leadership that we need to revisit the agreement and update it and discuss ways that we can make it more suitable for the current circumstances for both parties. And we had a meeting several weeks ago between staff and three representatives of the chamber board, Ms. Tucker, and Mayor Pro Tem Cho, who's also a board member of the Chamber of Commerce, and Karen, I'm sorry, what's Karen's last name? Foster, thank you. Karen Foster, who is a board member as well as an administrative part-time staff. And we had, as staff, developed a proposal to what we felt as a municipal organization is generally the way that a chamber of commerce operates within a community, which is helping small businesses with resources, with workshops, with training opportunities, as well as leadership development. There's several chambers around the valley that provide and staff has a presentation, we'll show it. But leadership opportunities to help find new leaders in the business community, and then also providing assistance with destination marketing and engaging visitors in the area. And then the events, which the existing chamber already has a big part in playing within the community. Most of the major events that happen within the city of Selma are organized by the Chamber of Commerce. And so we felt it was an opportunity for us to establish a baseline performance and service level, just how we've done with any other organization that we brought to the council to review their agreement and their structure. And we said, this is what the city of Selma expects. And this is how we believe a functional, value-added Chamber of Commerce organization relative to the other chambers within the Central Valley, this is how they operate. And this is not how currently the chamber is operating. And so let's find a way to get you guys to that level. And so I'll let our economic development manager, Alicia Aguirre, go into her presentation. But there was, after we presented that with the staff, the leadership of the chamber, there was very significant discussion as to the elements that were being presented in the presentation. We clarified a lot of things, a lot of concerns. Mayor Pro Tem Cho and Ms. Tucker raised some questions that we were able to address. And so it was a very productive conversation from our perspective. And then we received the response from the chamber, and we can discuss that. But yeah, I'd like to give the opportunity to Ms. Aguirre to present the same proposal that was presented to the chamber so that the council is aware of why these things were being requested of the chamber. So Ms. Aguirre, if you could go ahead and begin your presentation.
Good afternoon, council, mayor. Okay, so again, like our city manager just mentioned, this is the presentation that was shared with the board members that were present. When we met with the chamber, we went over some basics, why a new MOU. The current MOU is dated 1994, and the current MOU lacks some specificity and clarity in language. Since the last MOU, we have new staff coming on board, both from the city and on the chamber, new chamber board members. And it's a good opportunity to just kind of revisit in a way that we can foster, collaboration and really be advancing economic development initiatives. And so within the just deliverables that we wanted to outline within a new MOU included business development and business attraction strategies, policy education, destination marketing, and visitor engagement and events. And we can dive into all four of those just a little deeper. So the first one, business development and attraction. You're okay. Why is business development a significant function of the chamber? Well, the chamber is uniquely positioned to assist with navigating regulatory requirements. Oftentimes, they're the first call for a new business wanting to explore and step foot into Selma. They'll call the chamber. So for a new business that already established, they'll go to the chamber and typically get a membership there. So one way that we can kind of continue that business development through the chamber is by having them offer education workshops, organizing and facilitating them, having the chamber develop curriculum for a Leadership Selma program, and having the chamber assist and kind of work with the city in business attraction strategies. And in terms of education workshops, if you go to the next slide, the chamber would be, the workshops would be led by professionals on a topic. They would be relevant to business management topics. On the side, we brainstormed some possible topics for these workshops. And then the chamber would be responsible for marketing them and promoting them through their platforms, and then tracking attendees. And then again, brainstorming potential program names just to really provide a robust idea of what can be and what can become of these programs. And then the Leadership Selma program. The chamber would be responsible for developing the curriculum and implementing. The curriculum is usually an opportunity to develop leaders within Selma. So you'll recruit a cohort, they'll apply, and then they'll be taken through the coursework. And every month they're typically exposed to a different topic within the community. So the arts and culture of Selma. Maybe they'll hear from the healthcare district the next time. And usually these programs end with a community project, like a volunteer project or like a community garden. Also under business development attraction, we had having the chamber help with attraction strategies. And then that second deliverable was destination marketing. Next. Oh, no, the costs associated with business and leadership development. So we broke down what we anticipate the cost for each one of these activities to be. So with recruitment and marketing of those education workshops, we estimated about 1,500, and then recruitment and marketing for Leadership Selma, 2,000, and then so on. You'll see every line item. The next one is program materials, then class day budgets, and a graduation for Leadership Selma for a total of $28,500.
Not to interrupt, but Selma Small Business University, that's a proposed program by the city.
Correct. That was the education workshops that we proposed.
And then the Leadership Selma is the program that the chamber that we all know been around a while. I think I was in class 11, 2011 and 12. That's the Leadership Selma, and that's the budget that they had before. Is that correct?
Actually, I don't know that that was the budget. This was just staff's attempt to kind of itemize and attach a number to what it would probably cost now to administer that program.
That's what the city proposed to allocate towards that activity for the chamber.
Okay, so this is the leadership program that we had in the past. You don't know what was costing the city?
No, we don't know. And we don't, it's not currently active as far as I'm
Right,
aware.
right.
And so we were trying to bring it back, and we were saying this is what we believe it would cost.
Okay, and then moving on to the next identified priority is policy education. So encompassed in this, is there? You have a slide? No. Oh, no, okay. So with this, we were asking the chamber to kind of engage in some policy education, making businesses aware of what's coming down in the legislative pipeline. And then we went ahead and outlined what that could look like in terms of steps, joining the Cal Chamber, signing up for their legislative affairs newsletters, attending their legislative updates, and then taking back and communicating that to our local business community, either through workshops or newsletters, but just making sure that our local businesses are updated on legislative regulations and that they can deliver and answer questions in terms of implementations and reporting updates. Then the next one. Those are just the costs associated with the Cal Chamber membership, and then what it would cost to have a email platform to kind of share those updates through. Third priority is destination marketing. Why is the chamber positioned to help with this? Well, they're frequently the initial point of contact for Selma visitors, making it an ideal entity to enhance tourism revenue, promote local businesses to visitors, and raise community visibility. So some activities that we outlined within here include updating their website so that when visitors visit the Selma Chamber website, it's enhanced for the end users and they can navigate it quite easily. Content creation so that they have dollars to either create photos or videos that they can use across their social media or on their website. And then having them engage with partner organizations like the Fresno County Visitors Bureau and the Fresno EDC, which are already partners within the community, and just having them reach out to them and collaborate. Good. And this just kind of goes into more detail. Identify missing elements in the website, integrate online business directory, and incorporate event calendars to the website, revamp the website, and then monthly outreach to the Fresno County Visitors Bureau and Fresno EDC. Costs associated with these activities, we estimated about 10,000 for those website updates, 600 for the Visitors Bureau annual membership, for a total of 10,600. And then this last fourth priority being events, I did it a little backwards. I wanted to start off with the costs associated. So we're proposing sort of a sponsorship approach where the city would sponsor the 4 events up there with a $5,000 sponsorship and an additional 1,500 for photographer for ribbon cuttings, because that's an important activity that the chamber carries out. And if we could allocate dollars towards a photographer or help offset the cost of a photographer so that they can have those photos again to publish on their website and their social media. Go to the next slide. So the value of that $5,000 sponsorship would include the city's logo displayed across event material, a speaking slot for the city, photographs, and an engaging video for each event. And we can go to the next slide. Some organization and structure things. I do want to point out, I know earlier we said this is the exact same slide we showed the chamber. There is one slight change. We did some research and we changed our reserved board seat from 2 to 1, just because of what's the rules that boards abide by?
Brown Act?
Yeah, the bylaws, but
Rules of,
there's a rule book and there's a name to it, but I can't, I'm blanking.
Robert's rule.
Robert's rules, yes. And a voting requirement, so we just went ahead and changed that to 1 board seat. But we were asking that the chamber keep 1 seat open for the city so that we can foster that transparent communication and have the city attend those board meetings, and just ensure that everybody's on the same page. The other requirement was we were asking 1 full-time employee, that the chamber hire a full-time employee. This is because the added scope of work that was outlined in all the previous slides is going to take somebody probably full-time to be able to execute all those education programs, the leadership programs, and to be able to be attending those policy updates. And then last but not least, we recommended that the chamber secure funding from other sources, that they have a diverse funding portfolio. That means seeking grants, whether they be state or federal grants, and that they also, because they also rely on their membership and sponsorships, but just asking them to maintain a diverse funding portfolio. And then the last slide is reporting. So monthly reporting, we proposed asking for their monthly agendas, monthly updates on those leadership programs. And then in terms of quarterly reports on the business education workshop programs, summaries on the topics, quarterly reports on how many ribbon cuttings we had in Q1, quarterly reports on their conversations with the Visitors Bureau and the EDC, just knowing that they reached out, what came of that conversation, what collaborations were fostered, and then a quarterly legislative report that they would already be offering their members just to route it also to the city, and then the quarterly financial reports. In the annual reporting column, we would be asking for an annual presentation to the council that recaps their annual events and their annual program, an operating plan for the upcoming year, and just an opportunity to introduce their board members and their operating budget. And then the last slide is what the city would deliver in exchange, right? So the city would promise, or they would be responsible for data sharing, making sure that the chamber has all of the relevant data they need in terms of economic data, market data, access to facilities, whether that be the council chamber or the arts center downtown, development-related material, any maps that they need access to for destination marketing, parcel information for identifying locations for businesses, and then waiver and in-kind staff, which is already provided through the special events ordinance. And next slide, please. Here is the consolidated budget. So for business development programs, 28,500, policy education, the 2,000, and so on. 10,600 for marketing and visitor engagement, 21,500 for events, for a total of 62,500. And then on the right, we also included the in-kind contributions, again, through those special events ordinances. But that concludes my presentation, and if you have any questions, I can take them.
Thank you, Ms. Aguirre. And just to further elaborate on our proposal, so as you can see, the city was proposing not only to increase the level of service to our business community from the chamber, but also was willing to propose to the council to augment their funding to be able to support a staff person that could do these things. Because currently, the chamber is essentially a volunteer organization, and they have one part-time person that is doing sort of their bookkeeping and administrative kinds of things. And so we understand that the technical capabilities of the people who are involved with the chamber are very limited, and they're not oriented towards serving a small business community outside of coordinating events. And right now, the level of activity directed at small businesses is really coordinating with the EDC on a limited basis for occasional workshops, and also sending out occasional flyers for member businesses to the general public. And so from our perspective, there's a lot more activity or a lot more value that should be provided to our local businesses. And we were willing to say, hey, we know that you need some additional staff resources to be able to do all of these things that we're asking you to do. And so essentially proposing a doubling of the current budget or city's contribution to the chamber. And understanding that that additional staff person would not necessarily be an economic development person. They would be a person who runs the Chamber of Commerce as the administrator or the president or the CEO or whatever they would want to call it, but that has experience with doing these types of outreach. They're not the ones who have to provide the workshops. They don't have to provide small business funding. They're just the ones coordinating all of these services for the businesses, right? And so that was what we relayed to Ms. Tucker, to Mayor Pro Tem Cho, and to the other representatives of the chamber. From my understanding, and I offered to go to the Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors meeting to present the same presentation and to explain exactly what we're explaining now, and to make sure that there's no, misunderstanding about what the city is asking. And the expectation was that they would come back and, with feedback, whether they wanted, to further discuss the proposal and come to an agreement or a middle ground that then we can present to council for ultimately an agreement that we can agree on. And so it just didn't work out that way. We received a letter from Ms. Tucker from the Chamber Board rejecting our proposal outright, and then requesting that the city continue to pay $35,000 for the coordination of the events, as they always have. The letter from Ms. Tucker also indicated that they would not like to hire an economic development person which like I said, is not what the city was requesting. We're requesting for them to hire a staff person that could coordinate these activities for the chamber as a full-time staff person or two part-time staff persons, however they wanted to do it. This would not be an employee of the city. It would be an employee of the Chamber of Commerce. We offered to help recruit this staff person because we know that the chamber's capabilities with regard to recruitment and hiring are quite limited. So we offered to assist with that, but at no time did we ever indicate that this employee would report to the city or be part of the city staff in any way, shape, or form. With regard to the deliverables, we do think that, the city has to be very, very diligent in terms of tracking how the city's funds are spent when we provide them to another outside organization. And so, we requested quarterly and monthly reports, which currently we're getting from the chamber from a financial perspective. But we'd like to see activity updates, with workshops and those kinds of things. So ultimately, I wanted to make sure that the council was aware of the discussions that were being had, and then seeking direction from the council as to any ideas that you have as to how to proceed. If there's any specific things that you'd like to see from the chamber that we can maybe sit back down, with the chamber leadership and discuss for inclusion in a future contract. Ultimately, the way that, the proposal that the chamber put forth to the city is not acceptable to city staff because they're essentially requesting a $35,000 grant for events without any real accountability for the funds, right? So, but I think we can probably get to a point where we can incorporate a contractual relationship at some point. It's just, whatever the council's feedback is, we can incorporate that and go back to the chamber and just continue discussing. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. And Ms. Tucker, if there's anything, you'd like to add to that.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but our board understood that you had wanted us to hire an economic development person. I don't know.
No, Ms. Tucker, the proposal was for you to hire a staff person, a full-time staff person that could help coordinate the activities and the services that the city was asking for. We didn't say that it had to be an economic development person, preferably someone that has experience with the chamber or with the types of activities that we were proposing. But the expectation was not that you have to find an economic developer.
Maybe, I don't know. Ms. Cho, Mayor Pro Tem, you were at that meeting. I don't know if you have anything to say on that, but that was one of the main reasons that our board rejected your proposal, because we felt that if you needed additional economic development person, that you should hire them and they should work with your current economic development person. Just to go back, we have already started trying to bring the leadership program back. If you will recall, Roseanne Galvin used to do that, but we spoke to her about that, and she's had some health issues, but has not rejected our request for her to come back and do that. We just need to give her a little time to get better. We have been thinking about hiring a part-time person that could help with media. But we honestly feel that our staff is sufficient to handle the needs of the chamber. We are a member of Cal Chamber, and we do keep our businesses informed on what's going on in the city. And of course, if we hear that there's a business looking to come to Selma, we would absolutely talk to them and get them over to the city to speak to the person that could help them here. Our chamber feels we do a good job representing the city of Selma and its businesses. We've been working on workshops and, which we've done in conjunction with Alicia and EDC. We stay in constant contact with our representative from EDC. It's hard to get our businesses to come out to workshops. They're always saying they'd like to do this or like to hear more about that, and then you plan it and they don't show up. So that's a little disappointing to everyone involved, but we keep trying. But our board feels that our chamber does a good job. And in checking with other surrounding communities, you know, the city of Kingsburg, their chamber receives $47,000. 30,000 is given to them to do whatever they want to do with it. 12,000 goes to their summer concerts, and then they receive $5,000 to $10,000 for fireworks. The city of Reedley receives 75,000 a year. They do 4 events. They host 4 mixers and work with businesses. And the city of Reedley, Singer receives $80,000 a year. So I kind of feel like what the city of Selma gets for what we do is not a bad trade. Our city, our chamber has basically done the same thing for many, many years, and it's worked successfully. So I guess the ball is back in your court. And, you know, we did not honestly know about this contract that is now, I believe, 30 years old. And looking at those that have signed the contract, most of those people have passed on. But once we were told about the contract, we did provide financials and I believe agendas and board meeting minutes for the last fiscal year, I believe. And we will be happy to continue to do that. But whatever your decision is, I want you to know that our chamber is very happy working with the city. We will never be disrespectful. If you pull our funding, we will accept that, but we will continue doing what we're doing. We will continue inviting you to our events, and nothing will change on our side. So if you have any questions, I will be happy to try to answer them for you.
Questions?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We have a council member who is the vice president of the chamber as well as the mayor pro tem. As the chamber executive said, do you have anything to add? Mayor pro tem, kind of give us a window into both perspectives on this.
That's true. Like I say, I've seen both sides. Our chamber is, I've been in a chamber like, can't even remember what year with. And this is what we've always done. You're right. Time's changing. I could see we could do some progress, you know, when like maybe do bring up one person in or a part-time person, just update stuff and then continue on. Cause you can't just, I don't think you can just basically just, okay, this is what we want to do and go at it. We have to do it step by step. Okay, this is a small community and they're used to what we're doing. We're used to what we're doing. Changes is good. I agree to that, you know, because that's like part of progress and growth. And, you know, you want to see it in our city. So to me, I think we need to go back and go over, you know, if you give us money, then there will be a contract. And then what is expected, you know, versus, and then to me, it is still a drawing board. You can go back and negotiate and come to a middle ground. It does not have to be one-sided. And that's how I feel we should be working. Because Chamber of Commerce should be, we're not doing this for our health, okay? We are doing it for the community and we're out there, you know, showing like all of the events we are, is all volunteer. That's basically being a chamber member. That is one of the, it's in our bylaws. You're supposed to be working these events. It's not like, okay, I'm not gonna do this one. It takes all of us, which is 10 members now, to do, some of these projects are pretty big. It's not just little, rinky-dink project. It does take a lot of effort, a lot of hard work. And to me, you can tell, when the community's out there doing it, they're very, they're very happy and, that's why we do it. It's not like, we want to, but it is what we're supposed to do, and that's, to me, that's what a chamber does also. Like, let's say, progress is hard, especially, for us old people that haven't, we say, okay, all right. But, we have to have an open mind also. And, I'm probably one of them and I would go with it. But, you need to kind of, it's got to be a midway thing because you can't just give it to us this high and we're like right here. There's a middle ground. Just let us go there, step by step. Not, you can't throw it all at one time. We need to work together because it is for the city. It's not like, for anybody else. And we want to see our city grow. We want to see them happy and we want to see these events. If you minus everything that the chamber does, I don't know, I think the town's pretty boring then. There's nothing that we're going to be, everybody knows Raisin Festival is there, and now we've put in the car show and then the Santa's parade. Those are important things for the people of Selma. And to me, it's very important. So.
So are you taking a position? Are you advocating for the chamber's position to reject the contract and to go it alone and just, keep doing what it's doing, whether there's funding for the city? Or are you advocating for the city's position of rejecting the contract and providing services that the chamber isn't providing right now?
Okay, my position is I want to reject the contract, which is 30 years old, didn't pertain to us. I would go with, like you say, negotiation for a new contract that is feasible for both parties. And that's
You're rejecting the
negotiation.
city's contract, not the 94
I think
contract.
if you give money to us, of course, we have to have a contract.
So, but the position was the chamber came back and rejected the city's offer. You're advocating rejecting the city's offer as the vice president,
As
correct?
I would say, yes, rejecting it as written. It could be changed to the point is more,
But you want to negotiate more.
yes.
You don't want to just draw a line in the sand and say, forget it.
No, I would think is.
You want to
we
go
can
back
do
to the
that.
drawing table.
Yes, I do.
I'm a little confused. Okay, if you're rejecting it, city manager, so we're refusing, if you're saying they're gonna refuse the contract, or they're not accepting, or they're rejecting the contract. So you're saying we're coming back to the drawing board to see where we can make changes to, or are we saying we're gonna hold the city staff responsible to take on these additional duties, and now the chamber is going to be self-funded? I'm just a little
Yeah,
confused here.
no, great question. If I could clarify, I think the first order of business here, and we're not necessarily looking for any specific direction. It's really what comes out of the discussion that staff is prepared to pursue. I think everybody is in agreement that we need a new contract. And that's, the chamber knows that, the city knows that. And so if the city council is willing to accept the Chamber of Commerce's request to cancel our existing contract, then that's certainly a decision that needs to be made by the council tonight, or it can be considered at a later time. With regard to a new contract, we made a proposal and it was outright rejected, and basically a counter proposal from the chamber came forward that said, we want to just keep doing the events that we're doing and ribbon cuttings, and we want the city to continue to pay us $35,000. And so I think what Mayor Pro Tem's point is that if there is any sort of exchange of funding for, these events, then there does need to be a contract in place. Now, that contract doesn't need to be approved here, doesn't need to be developed here. It's just what does the council want to see from the Selma District Chamber of Commerce that we can then sit down with the chamber leadership and hash out in an agreement that we can bring back for approval? That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean, I agree, I agree for change, definitely. I think when you mention 3 cities, you're talking about Kingsburg, Reedley, and Sanger. And I've been to all of their events. I go to their events, I've been to their events, and I tell you, I mean, I've been very vocal about, they get thousands of people at their events. When we hold an event and we're not bringing in 1,000 people over, there's, that's a problem. We're a larger city, we're a larger city than they are. And I'll tell you, Fowler's a smaller city than we are. And one person does it all herself, Yvonne Hernandez. And she can throw an event. I've been to Fowler's farmers markets and Yvonne Hernandez has it down, and I've said that. I've told you guys that. I think that it's a great thing. I think that we do need to look at our city being represented in a much more efficient and a prosper community. And I'm not saying that we don't need the chamber's help. I'm not going to say, I think the chamber does good things. I'm not going to take that away from anybody. But I do think that there is a disconnect and that we need to come together and really promote our city, because there shouldn't be just one event out of a year that we get a few people. We need to be like these other cities where every time we have an event, everybody can say, go to Selma, go to Selma. I mean, go to Hanford, go look at theirs. I mean, go to Reedley's, go to Dinuba's. They get everybody. Sanger gets their entire community when they have an event. That's just the way it should be. I mean, and we lack that. And I think that, I'm not going to pull any punches. I've said it, we've said it before. We need to do something and we need to start doing things that are going to bring people to this community and it be inviting and it be welcoming and it be like, Selma knows how to do it. Selma does it right. I mean, that's.
And to your point, Reedley, Ms. Tucker mentioned Reedley gets $75,000 from the city, but they have 2 full-time staff people, that make those events happen the way they do, and they're able to attract. And so that was our goal, is to help the Selma Chamber understand, look, your volunteers are a great network, a great resource, and they do a lot. But we can take it a step further to make these events more impactful if we have people specifically dedicated to on a full-time basis, not on a volunteer basis, to really make an impact. I believe, Ms. Hernandez, I'm not exactly sure, but she's probably a paid staff as well, right? So, and that was just the perspective that we were coming from. If we truly want to make an impact, let's find somebody who can dedicate their time and resources to these activities.
So I think that the confusion or the miscommunication about the was the economic development director or what have you is because in the original contract, it actually says in under section 5 that the chamber agrees to perform the here and after enumerated activities. And then it spells out the economic development. Sorry, I think I missed where it was, but it basically says that they should have a full-time, or they shall make the city's economic developer director available to act as the executive director of the chambers on a part-time basis, but not to exceed 15% of the director's working hours. So that's in the original bylaws, or in the original MOU, I should say. So I think maybe that's where the confusion was. I'm not sure, but I wasn't there, so I'm not sure, but that's the only part that I saw that mentioned anything about an economic development director being the executive director, which I don't think that a lot of the things that are in this original MOU were even being followed. And so, you know, yes, it is a 30-year-old document, and it does state on here that the chamber has a right to cancel this contract or what have you, you know, with 60 days, which we're at. So we haven't, this contract hasn't expired. It doesn't expire until July 18th, I think it was. So there's time. So if they're wanting to get out of this contract, I mean, they've done that step, but I don't want to not be part of the city. I mean, the chamber, because I think they do a lot of good things, you know, for the community. And you know, in order for us to, you know, help them out a lot, the other thing that I saw in here is that they've been receiving $30,000 for the last 30 years. You know, I think just recently it actually went up, and now with the in-kind monies that we're giving them for the waivers, you know, we're actually probably the waivers has been a while. But I think this is a good thing for the chamber, like this proposal that's in front of us today. It looks like, you know, we're wanting to work with them more and be able to give more resources, because at the end of the day, I think it ended up being $112,000 that we're offering to give them. That's more than Reethy, right? It's more than Sanger, I think she said. So I think this is a good thing, but I think that the communication needs to continue to say, you know, what are the expectations? And maybe like Mayor Pro Tem said, maybe meet in the middle somewhere, you know, and figure out, okay, you know, if we're trying to get to the, I want to say the AI century, because we're not even in the 20th century anymore. It's more of the AI. And so we're, you know, we need to get our businesses there and our communication there. So, and we do need to utilize our social media a lot more, and our boards, you know, the media boards that are out in the community. We do need to utilize that more, but I'd like to see more conversations on how can we get there, right? We need to get more resources out there. We need to get more engagement. I know leadership classes are very important. Business classes are very important. So I think that, you know, if we want to attract those thousands of people for the city, then we do need to work together, and we do need to come to some sort of a agreement to get there, right? Like I said, maybe not at the AI stage, but at least at some digital stage.
Well, I guess I'm next. You know, these, I'm really, I seen this coming, a couple of months ago. And, I'm really disappointed that the chamber is elected to try to, break or, you know, break the contract. One of the things that I've been doing in the last couple of years is noticing, and I've, in my own mind, I've, made it aware that I don't agree with some of the chamber things that they do, but at the end of the day, I always go back and I support them. If it's not myself, it's financial. But the reason why I do that is because I look at this city as our city, and I love this city, and I'm a business owner, and I know that at the end of the day, economic development is partial to the city and partial to Chamber of Commerce. And so when we speak in that level, you know, I did an interesting thing. I actually reached out to a couple of people that are board members, and I got even bigger. I got a bigger sense of what they're feeling. And I shared that with the city manager in regards to a lot of issues that I've seen. But what we're talking about right now, and in essential, what we're talking about is services to our community. How we value the service of our community. I'm elected to serve on this council to make sure our community gets what they should get and account for it in a right way to account for the financial we give them. But at the same time, I have to also look and see what services they're giving. Even if they're not the best services, they're still giving a service. That needs to be commended and say, hey, man, thank you for trying and doing, right? And one of the key issues that I was asking everybody is, yeah, I understand you want to leave the contract, but what's the difference? What's the reason? And words came out like disconnect, red tape, and just things, you know, that I consider pushing. And you know, you're always going to get that when you have leadership that's been there for 10, 15, 20 years. But you also need to understand, and we as a elected board need to understand that, we need to thrive for better. And we need to want to get those thousand people on our events. And when I say our events, it's the city's events. I mean, at the end of the day, the city's putting the money out. So when we come back and peel that orange and start saying, hey, but one thing I told myself was, and I realized that even if I want to get personal about this, it's hard because here you have it. As an elected official, you want to serve and make sure that an organization is how, if they're doing and serving our community, we should fund them. But at the same time, why would you want to fund an organization that feels that all we're doing is creating issues and problems and pushing them down? But listening to Mayor Pro Tem Cho and listening to Councilman, actually everybody around that spoken is they've been talking about, hey, we're a team. And teams will disagree and agree. Teams will fight and argue. And, and contracts, I love the word contract because to me, a contract means that you can either say yes or no, but at the end of the day, it's actually the arbitrator that wins. Because if there's a person in the middle that says, hey, let's get this done for the betterment of our community, you can, and I said this to some board members, you can dislike me or feel that there's a political vengeance. Or maybe even say that, you know what, your vote, votes have consequences. But at the end of the day, it's not about that. We have to become bigger and better of a person to look at the vision of the community, to better the community, to look and get our staff and to ask the board, hey, I'll say this again. I started off by saying I'm disappointed that they want to leave us, but at the end of the day, I would rather that we set our staff and them to get back in that room and negotiate something so we can actually come to an agreement, a strong agreement. But I always said this, and I tell my staff and I tell my own personal staff, and I say, if you don't have anything hard, or if we don't raise that bar a little higher, then what's the sense? What's the sense in working? What's the sense in volunteering if you're not going to volunteer to your best of your ability? You're actually hurting our community. So what I tell everyone is this, rather than taking a step forward and attacking and getting personal and making things ugly and tense, let's take a step back and actually give each other some time so we can all go back and negotiate some misunderstandings or something. This is my own personal opinion in regards as a council member for the betterment of our community, is I would rather want them to go back to the drawing board and talk. And I want to share some words that our Mayor Pro Tem, and I have to say this because she brings great value because she has so much history and all the events that she's done. One of the step-by-step, no one-sided, change is good, work together. These things are, those things bring accomplishments. They bring a strategized future plan for our community. So, I know that people will go and see, and I know one thing, I know this, I can say this proudly. I know that even though we have arguments here, I can look at the mayor and I know that he has the best, he wants the best for our community. Same way I do, same way Sarah does, same way Blanca does, same way Bev do. We all want the best. Because when we go to events, we look and say, why can't our event be like that? But we're not attacking individual. We're just wanting the betterment. We want to set the standard a little higher. But I want to make sure that, in this argument right now, I would like to bring it back to this. I'm disappointed that the chamber chose to want to discontinue the contract with the city. But I don't believe we as a city, if we want to be successful, we walk away, we actually entertain it, walk forward and say, let's sit down and let's talk about this. Because I will say this to you. It's not about votes, it's about bettering our community. So, and we will always say this, that, yes, we're politically minded when we have to get voted, but at the end of the day, we all want to strive for the best thing. We want the best for our community. So for me, I would rather work on words that the Mayor Pro Tem said, and that's step by step, change is good, work together and go over the contract and come back to us with time. Instead of taking a step back, let's take a step forward. Negotiate a contract. And what I mean by that too is this, not one individual, not any group has a leverage here, because it's the city of Selma We are elected by our community to help our community and to oversee. So and the chamber has also an oath to bear. They have to make sure that they're giving businesses. I'm a part of the Chamber of Commerce. I never got a memo saying that my chamber board was gonna refuse this contract. So, you know, I have questions, but I don't want to go there. Not taking a step back. I want to take a step forward. So for that, Mr. Mayor and council members, I would rather want to see a step forward where we can actually get back together and get back to the drawing board if we could. If not, if not, then if not, then we have to accept their terms and still go back later down the road and budget and figure out what we can donate or ask for, I don't know what it is, a sponsorship or something like that. Because we still have time to figure out what, you know, we're gonna do, either we're gonna sponsor or we're gonna, you know, that's a.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So I haven't talked yet. I'll just add my comments. It seems like there is a little urgency, given that the chamber has formally notified the city that they're rejecting the contract. Is that correct? Is the clock started with, well, I can ask Mayor Pro Tem. Has the clock started on the 60-day cancellation? Is there a timeline going on here when this actually takes effect, the severance between the chamber and the city?
I mean, so the contract says that they have to notify us within 60 days of their intention to not renew. But technically, the renewal happens at the beginning of the fiscal year. So they've given us more than 60 days notice that they will not renew, but really we have until the end of the fiscal year to come up with a new agreement.
So it's a July issue in effect, whether it's budgeted, whether money for the chamber is budgeted at that time. And what I'm hearing from the president and the vice president is that the chamber will just continue to provide the services it's providing, and it'll be up to the city to provide these other services that the city wanted the chamber to work with them to provide. Is that correct?
Yeah, in which we propose that we would continue to work with them. But yes, their desire is to continue just to focus on the events as they normally have with the same level of funding.
Can I ask a question, city
Sure.
manager? Would the city hire another economic development coordinator to do what it wants the chamber to do, or would the city absorb that in the community development department or economic development department?
There are no specific plans to add staff. I mean, it really comes down to what the council wants to do, because from our perspective, you know, there's a gap there that's not being met right now. And so it's just up to the council how that gap is going to be filled.
But you do the operations, so would you be recommending to the council to add a person to do what you're recommending the chamber do with an additional employee, a full-time employee?
I would need to know what items from that presentation, from that proposal, the council wants to continue to pursue, and then we can make that determination.
If the council wanted to pursue every single item that is in this report that the city wanted the chamber to do, would it be your recommendation for the city to hire an additional employee to work on economic development?
I don't have a recommendation for that
At
right
this
now, Mayor.
time?
Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
So it just looks like, I mean, from what I'm hearing, it seems like there is a miscommunication between the two parties in terms of the employee. The employee was, I think as the
Part-time
president
employee.
said, yeah, president thought it would have to be someone from, you know, economic development or economic development oriented. And from what the city manager is saying, community development director is saying, is that it's more for like a full-time employee to assist in these functions that we're seeing in this report today. Is that correct?
To run the day-to-day operations of the chamber is really what we're looking for.
Like an executive director?
Exactly. Mhm. Yeah.
So since we have the vice president, president, is that something that you guys could take back to your board and negotiate? And that might change things? Potentially? Come on, yeah, on the mic if you don't mind. Thank you.
So we keep referring to this 30-year-old contract, but the
MOU.
reason that that contract was created, and I've gone back and asked, you probably all remember Cindy Howell, that was the executive director here for a while. I had asked her about why was that contract like that? And she said it was created when DB Huser had worked for the chamber. And then he was also hired to work at the city. And that's why the economic development part of that came into play in the contract, because the city needed to know how to split that, the salary and the hours and the duties. So I think that's been a part of the problem, is working under a contract that really didn't apply to us anymore. I mean, it was created because of DB Huser, and it just went on from year to year to year. And as I said earlier, we didn't even know this contract existed. So and also, as I said, we're not walking away from the city. And we will be happy to do some of those things. We will provide a leadership class when we can hopefully get Roseanne back, because she's very good at that. She's experienced. And we were going to thinking very strongly of hiring a part-time person to come in and help with events as well as media, working on our website and such. But I'm a little taken back about our events not bringing people to the city. Our Raisin Festival brings thousands of people into our community. I don't know if you were at our Santa arrival and parade, but it was huge. There were people lined up on the street like they are for Band Festival. So I think that we have people at our events. I don't know. I don't go to a lot of the other events in the other towns because I don't really have a lot of time to do that. But I think that our events bring out a good number of people. Our car show and barbecue cook-off, that grows a little bit every year. So, but we're willing to go back and see if we can add some other things to our list of duties. As I said, whatever the decision is, we're not walking away from you, and we're not stopping supporting the city and the community. So we want to make that very clear. We're not just walking away from you. So our main reason for rejecting that contract, and I'm going to go back and look at what our proposal says, because our executive board walked away from that meeting with our city manager believing that it was an economic development person that needed to be on the chamber staff. And we really felt that that should be a person that was hired by the city.
Ms. Tucker, if I may, would you be willing to provide myself and anybody from the council the opportunity to meet with your entire board? I feel like that might be the best way to prevent any miscommunication about what the city is actually proposing, to answer any questions that the board members may have. That way, everybody's hearing the same thing, and we can avoid maybe any miscommunications, because it's kind of like playing a game of telephone where we're telling you one thing and then you go and I think Mayor Pro Tem, if correct me if I'm wrong, the way that our proposal was presented to the board was there was one copy printed, and that one copy was passed around to the board, and that was what the board was expected to make the decision on. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so I don't think that that's really the most effective way to be able to present a proposal and to make a decision on something as significant as this. So I'm more than happy to go attend your board meeting whenever that is next time, and make sure that just we're all on the same page about what the city's expectations are, what the council's expectations are, and ultimately what the chamber wants to continue to provide to the community.
I'll be happy to bring that back to the board and get back to you if that's okay.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I just want to go back on, what you stated in regards to, you were taken back. I want to, I want to actually, from going from the parade, having a multicultural parade and having horses there and having just totally different people there. A lot of people still talk about they're excited to go next year. From the carnival that we were there and talking about how we can dress it up, we the city, how we could dress it up and add value to the carnival. You're not gonna get, from me, you're not gonna get anything, any pushback on that, because at the end of the day, I want to make sure that we start at a very starting point, and I think that we as a council, we want, again, I'm gonna use the word, set the bar a little higher. So I hope, Shar, you don't take back to what any of us say, because at the end of the day, we want to put that bar really high. And we want to get you and our staff in a conversation where we can set that bar and get even higher. So if you can, and I think the city manager said it best, I think that if we could get where we can get both of the sides together, I think it'll be a great way, because then after that, and if we've tried everything and we still are saying no to it, then we walk away, and we still have to sponsor or do something. But I know that, the events they're getting better, and they're doing well. But also, we still want, I, as a business owner, and I know that I have a business in one of my areas, they're asking for things that they get in Fresno. So I want the level of expertise and the communication. I want that level at that point. So if we're not going to give that point, that level, well, let's talk about we're not going to get, so we can actually add to it from the city. That's all we're asking for.
Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna interject also. Like these events are, like say, very important to our cities, and for us to be there as council people that's supposed to be representing the city, it's nice to be able to say, the people of the community loves to see us there. So to me, we should be supporting these events. I have to be there because I have to work it, so I have to be there. But it'd be nice, for everybody to support people from city staff. Would be nice for you guys to come and see one event. Just pick one a year or whatever you need when you have time. It'd be great to see you guys all out there, The support got to go both ways, guys, and like I say, we're working pretty hard, and like I say, Sarah gets to go to all the other cities. You're right. I don't have time either, but I'd like to see, all of us showing up to our own events. Okay, thank you.
I think that's a bit of a cheap shot. I don't think Councilmember Guerra has all this extra time to be going to these other events. As I know, as her business partner, she's working really hard in a very difficult insurance marketplace right now. So Mayor Pro Tem, let's keep it civil. I think that, I thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for wearing both hats and for being a volunteer in the community and advocating for the chamber as well as for the city. I just hope, we can stay civil between each other, with the chamber and the city. We don't need to be, as Council Member Trio said, we don't need to be adversarial on this. We need to work together. We've seen how it shouldn't work with the animal shelter. Let's not repeat that. Let's work together, because the chamber fulfills a really good function for promoting our businesses. Yes, it can be fine-tuned. Yes, it does need to be, I agree, it needs an executive director. We've all been saying that for a while. They haven't found the right one. But, somebody who's tech savvy and somebody who can really, it looks like, work with the city. I just, with our city, I don't believe, I hope that the city doesn't just step in and just push the chamber aside and just take over because they think they can do it better. I don't think that's the point here. The point was these chamber mixers and these items, yes, they can be enhanced, but we are all in this together. The chamber is us. It's part of our DNA. It's part of the council. The council is part of the chamber. We're part of these nonprofits and these other organizations. I don't want my town run by professionals only. I want my town to be run by the stakeholders, the citizens, with an assistance of the professionals and their great knowledge and their great degrees, their advanced degrees, to assist us as a city to fulfill our potential. That's working together. And I really get the sense there's just a little bit of, you know, uh, a feeling of conflict with the chamber and how they feel they've been treated with the city. And I think we're remedying that today. I think we're moving towards getting on the same page. I don't think the city meant to do that. I just think that there is an issue right there right now of lack of communication. Let's keep talking. I think that's positive about today, that there's some serious issues that can be still talked about, and there's still time to save this so that, we can keep a vital chamber, because this has been a topic forever. Since I got on in 2012, the chamber has always been a focal point of the city. And, why is the city funding it? Why are they not funding it? What can it do better? Here it's coming back. Here we go. And this is a very good time for that relationship to be explored, enhanced, developed, and improved.
Mayor and council, if it looks like we have a little bit of time, and I wanted to go back through the presentation and find out, just so that our conversations with the chamber will be better informed about what the council actually wants and sees as valuable as part of relative to our proposal that we made. Is it okay if we go back through that presentation and maybe take a look to see?
Okay.
Okay. City Clerk, if you could pull that presentation back up, and really,
I'm just going to take a quick,
yeah, if you want to just call a break and then we
you
can
guys want to
resume.
take a quick break and then we'll come back and listen to the development? Okay, 5 minutes? All right.
Thank you.
All right, we're back.
Thank you, members of the council. City Clerk, if you could advance to the slide that shows the business development workshops, please. There we go. So what we were proposing for the chamber is to organize and schedule at least one workshop per month. And notice it says organize and schedule. It doesn't mean that anybody at the chamber themselves needs to be providing these workshops. There's lots of resources out there like the EDC, like the SBD, Small Business Development Center, Access Plus Capital. I mean, there's just so many resources out there that can be brought into town to provide education for our businesses. And then, I think one of the topics that Ms. Aguirre, during her presentation, mentioned is that the city is not expecting the chamber to do all these things on their own. I mean, we have an economic development manager to help provide those resources, those connections, and that networking to be able to promote through our social media, all of those things. And so the potential program names that we came up with, Selma Small Business, these are all just brainstorming, right? The chamber has complete flexibility as to what they want to call any of these programs. We were just trying to be helpful and kind of helping them envision what this kind of program would look like. So is there any feedback that the council has with regard to these business development workshops?
Most definitely. I want to go back to what the mayor was stating in regards to making it, we don't want the professionals leading this. I want to go back to, we have organizations in Selma that, there's one that I did not mention that I find that's very, 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 very important in our community as an outreach for our Chamber of Commerce is to it being bilingual. And when I say bilingual, Spanish speaking, Sikh. So one of the biggest things, and I have, we have business owners business people that come to our businesses, both mine and the mayor and Sarah's in town. And we offer business, and it comes along with some advice. And one of the things that we have been doing, I know we do outreach in our own personal business, but it's not a bad idea to get a couple of business owners that are, what does a small little business do? They don't want to go to that professional because they feel, and I'm not saying not to go it, but they want to go and hear it from someone. So one of the outreaches they could do, and with our economic development director, is get with some people in our town and say, hey, we're going to have a workshop and we're going to break it down and we're going to bring it down to the nut and bolt of it. And guess what it does? And like the mayor said, hey, let's not have the professionals do this. Let's bring some of our own community members that can do workshops, talk about insurance, talk about the importance of the rules, talk about the taxes, talk about the importance, how to create an S Corp, how to create an LLC. Those are things that are important that help our businesses. And one of the biggest things that I get in my office is a lot of Spanish speakers don't understand what they are doing in Selma or who their leadership is. Case in point, you just had that tax and business office in downtown. Those people, they're giving out services, but how we can organize our chamber or ask our chamber and our city to get together and have meetings where we bring the small businesses to do little business shops. Those are networking, those are talking, those are case points. Then we get them to the next level. But we can break this down and even bring it down a little more to a point where we get some people starting to, now we're actually bringing down the little business that's afraid to go out to that big office and start talking. So I think that would be something that you can add here and say, hey, negotiation is to have the chamber and say, hey, let's just ourselves do some networking and talking about how to better our business. My own opinion.
And I think to add to that, and I don't know how most people feel, but also have it open to where it's available on, a virtual meeting. Because if somebody can't come to the meeting because maybe they have some small kids or something that they can't get that babysitter, like offer that virtual meeting as well, because then that way you have more participants that come to these meetings.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho and I had that discussion today about potential Zoom meetings, that could facilitate attendance for sure. Thank you for that feedback. Any other feedback on this slide?
Open to recommendations, don't just close the door. Maybe somebody, maybe somebody from, and because I've said it before, why can't we do something like this? And then I just get the door shut on, shut on my face. But, it's because being born and raised in Selma, I know how events used to be. I mean, I think I mentioned this to you, city manager or Amy. Back before, when I was a little girl, my dad used to take me to the Raisin Festival, and we used to do it at the Brettlinger. And it was the biggest thing. It was like, you go to Carruthers Fair, that's what Selma used to be. Same thing, that big. And I had mentioned this a couple of years back, because the citizens that were born and raised in Selma, now they're, grandparents like I am. So, I know, I am a grandparent. Jerome, you're looking at me like, what? But, these are things that we want to take our babies to, our grandbabies, we want them to experience it. And I'd mentioned this a couple of years back, and, they just said, no. Oh, that would never happen. I'm like, why? The problem that we have at Lincoln Park is it's too confined. You get parents that'll say, I can't even take my stroller through there because there's too many people, or you got those roots, coming out of, you got too many gopher holes, you got this. You do, when you have open space, you can take strollers through there. You can do a little more. You can have a little more areas where you can sit down and eat. That's what people complain. There's nowhere to sit and eat. How are we going to eat if we buy something? Because there's no chairs out there. Well, we kind of have to do a better job. We have to put out tables and chairs out there so people can sit down and eat. Those are the things that if we want to do better, we got to tell people, yeah, we need to do this kind of stuff because you're going to get more people out there. You will. I mean, if other cities do a beer garden, you're going to make money. I mean, it's the truth. Those are just things that, we see all the time. I mean, we go to other places and they do it. So,
You're saying open it up to suggestions.
yeah, open it up to suggestions. Exactly.
Yeah, because the fundamentals are there. These events, people love these events. They come out for them. It's just a matter of enhancing them and building on them and making them even better. The leadership, I think, we definitely need that back. It's good to have that funnel, good to have that pipeline for people who want to get involved in this city government. Because we definitely need something to give people a background in the city. People just don't know anymore. They're too busy. They just don't know what city government's about. And to have something like that, maybe even a streamlined course. I mean, mine took a long time.
Don't
I
you
know
think it
a lot
should
of
become a
afternoons.
requirement for elected officials?
I don't think you can.
Hmm?
Yeah,
Oh,
I don't
okay.
think you can legally, but I mean, I think it's important. It's good to have. And I think, it definitely helped me in my background. Rose did it. My wife Rose did it with me, and we learned a lot, and it just gives you a background in the city, where it came from, and the history and where it's going. And you could do it online. You could do a ton of it online now. Whatever you call it,
No, that's a
but
good
just
idea.
having that pipeline, I think, is important.
We are seeing in our city boards and commissions just a real lack of candidate pool, right? Just because people don't know that these commissions exist. And I think this type of avenue would help identify those folks that have the potential to run for office, to run for these boards. And so, yeah, I think that would go a long way. So it's just a matter of figuring out what that curriculum, if someone like Ms. Galvan, I wasn't around when she ran those courses, but anybody really who has the passion for the history of the community and for the current operations, I think could do something like that. Any other feedback on the leadership workshops?
Amy could run it.
Absolutely.
I'll keep going back.
She's gonna
to-
ask for a raise. I don't know.
No, but we're talking about the leadership program, but in reality, we need to keep on going back to talking about what the mayor was stating. It doesn't have to be a professional. It could be someone from Selma that has all the history. And I'm gonna tell you guys a name right now, Pete Israeli. When I got elected in 2018, he went to my office and picked me up, and he took me for about 4 hours driving around and told me everything about Selma. And I was mad, but by the end of the trip, I looked at him and I had a totally different understanding of the individual and the perspective of Selma. And those leaders that have been in Selma for many years, they're out there. And you know, but that goes back to what the mayor was saying in regards to having that hometown person, getting that perspective. So when we talk about a class of leadership and we talk about development, let's think of someone in Selma that has been here for many years, so we can get that touch where people don't feel, because look, but you know, I don't mean this to disrespect my staff. You guys have all been here for no less than a year. 2 years? But,
2 years.
okay, but at the end of the day, we need to jive and mix in so we can get that understanding of the community, feeling that sense. So if you guys can add that too, it would be great to be having a discussion with the chamber and see what they come up with.
Yeah, I agree with that. I actually took a class also many years ago before I became political, I guess. But it showed like the city, you know, and way back then too, the history. And then one of the gentlemen, the teacher was Randy McFarland. Yeah, we called him Mr. Selma then because he was able to walk us around the streets. He wrote a book about Selma, and he could point out to this building was this and this. So that's basically what we need to do, bring it back, you know, so people that comes to work to Selma, that's not from Selma, they can know a little bit more. And like the banks and all the people that works the banks, they would be like, definitely, they send their people there just to learn, you know. I was, in my class, I had two police officers, and that was pretty neat class, because then they get to meet each other, you know, different walks of life. That's fantastic way to, you know, they all learn about the city together, and then they had graduation classes, and they really put a lot of effort. Yeah, Roseanne put a lot of effort, and she was really good about it, so,
And they always had guest speakers,
yeah, yeah.
always.
yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily someone from the city. It could have been someone, a historian like Randy McFarland. It could be Pete Israeli, who was a bank president for a long
Oh,
time.
Mr. Mayor,
There'd be a lot of different codes.
Randy is, or, Mr. McFarland, he gave me all the he gave me all the pictures from Selma. That's why my restaurant had them. So I still have those. He has 360 pictures, and that's all of Selma before they were parades, when they were walking and no dirt, the roads were dirt. All those pictures, I have those. So they handed those to me with a book when I got elected. So, I mean, we can share those with you guys. So if they want to go on, and those things are valuable, you know, those are valuable.
Well, you know that
history.
mural, 1948 High Street,
Mhm.
that's that's based on his book, Historical Selma.
Mhm.
He came up with all that.
I think we have copies of the Centennial Selma in the office. It's just a matter of trying to order some more. Yeah.
And real quick, on that, what came to mind was, you know, maybe if they're not available, maybe have someone sit down and, you know, take notes and write that, because I know, and it brings me back to like my grandma, you know, she had all these prayers all the time, and I never sat with her to say, okay, let me see. My cousin did, but it just kind of brought that to, you know, to mind as far as like, let's sit, have someone sit with, you know, these historians and take notes, and because at the end of the day, like we had the meeting with the SKF, those are all history. Like, you're not gonna be able to download that information unless you actually sit with somebody and, you know, take notes. And then at least if we're able to get them in person to do these classes, but then we also have the backup, right? In case they're not available or what have you. So I think that would be a good thing as well.
The recording, like an oral history of the, of
Yeah.
Selma. Yep. Okay. Let's see, on the policy education side, City Clerk, if you could skip to that slide. You know, really what our goal was just to make sure that the local businesses were aware of laws that were being considered or passed in the state legislature or even federally that could potentially affect their operations. I mean, we know the big one is minimum wage, right? But there's also things related to workers' compensation and liability insurance and those kinds of things, which, you know, the mayor and Councilmember Guerra are fully versed on. But, you know, we find that a lot of these businesses, when laws passed that, let's say, restrict or that require a certain amount of benefits to be provided to employees. You know, they're kind of in the dark about it. So that's really the goal here. But if there's anything else that along the policy education lines that you would like to see a new agreement have in it, then we're more than happy to include that.
What comes to mind is, for rental properties is, all the different laws, like there's a proposition. We have the numbers, I think say 1483 or something like that. It's basically you can't raise rents above 10%. Is that? Remember if it's 1483, but it's, those kind of things. So property management would be very important, to know, whenever they have whenever the governor, issues a state of emergency, that you can't just give someone a 3-day, you have to give them a 30-day because, it's state law, especially when you're under a, state of emergency. All of these different things that when we had COVID, there was so many things out there that, the California Apartment Association actually had documentation of when you could, serve them a notice, how much you can collect, all of that kind of things. And so property managements may not know all of that, or even residents, like just, but I think that would be.
I think one of the ones, I don't know where it fits in this, but maybe a year ago, we had all the pop-up people coming, the young individuals coming to the city hall wanting to start a business. One of the things that we do in our office is we educate people what a sole proprietor and an LLC and an S corp and a C corp and the difference between a partnership and what's the first steps you take, and you go to the business fictitious name and create a business, right? And get a pulling EIN number and understand where you go to the EDD, what the FICA and FUTA is, what your responsibilities. So stating all those and actually put them in a little puzzle as to what it starts. That was one of the biggest things that I received after people came. They went to my office and said, hey, I want to start a business. What do I do? And, those are outreaches, that's the minds, that's the young minds in our community that want to create a business. But if they don't have that tool, so one of the things that we should be doing, not just once a year, we should be doing at least 3 times a year, because when you have that little young individual that wants to create a business, they don't know where to go. And right now, truckers, for insurance purposes, they go and they have to become an LLC. Well, they understand, they figure out, hey, LLC to an S corporation, what is that, right? How many truckers do we have self-employed in Selma? Those are educational classes that actually, that's the first step that they should be doing. And if they don't understand it, they're already wrong, right? And another one is, and I've been harping with everybody about this, point sale, the point of sale. How you create your sales tax, how you increase sales tax is you actually educate all the businesses and tell them, hey, go away from that little man registered and go to a point of sale. Why? Because they have, automatically, we've done workshops. My niece she does in Fresno, all she's doing is doing workshops to create businesses. But what they're doing, they're advocating point of sale. Why are they advocating point of sale? It's it's transparent. You're going to get 100% sales tax. It's going to increase your sales tax. So as a city, we should promote point of sale. Why? Because that's going to increase our sales. So these are many tools that we should be pouring into our system so they can go and start and educate the people so they could do it, so we can actually find it. So I don't know where that would fit in, but I would love for our chamber and our city to be, having these classes regularly.
The
Yeah.
one thing, sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
The one thing that just popped to my mind as well is the, what is it, the map, the map point, or what is that, resource center that's downtown?
Map,
Quest or map?
No, no, not MapQuest, not the
Self-agent
mapping.
access point or something.
Yes, like for the homeless and things like that, right? So that is also something that we need to, educate our business owners about is, yes, we have an issue, but there are certain laws, regarding that, and then what resources are out there, so I think that that's another one. Again, I don't know where that one falls in, but I think that that would be another good resource to bring in to, educate the business owners.
yeah, I could see that fitting in both in the small business workshops as well as the Leadership Selma curriculum, and then the point of sale and the business development workshops. Anything else, on
The
policy?
bilingual is really important. I
Bilingual.
think, there are a lot of, there are a lot of Sikhs that are in the trucking industry. I think we need to be aware of that. There are, a lot of people in the ag industry that are Latino. Keep it as many languages as we can. Keep it as accessible as possible. Have as much access, and have as much penetration as we can to the whole community, the west side and the east side.
Thank you. On the destination and marketing and visitor engagement, this is really, it comes down to improvements to the website so that, Mayor Pro Tem made a great point today when we were discussing this. It's people often look at the Chamber of Commerce first when they come to the community, right? And they look up the Selma Chamber of Commerce. And so it's a great opportunity for us to be able to present the information that we want them to see on that website, and then follow that up with other engagement activities on social media with great photography, engaging with other resources like the Fresno County Visitors Bureau, the Fresno EDC. The Fresno EDC has a really good sort of system already down where they, go out to these trade shows and conferences, and they market Fresno County and the 13 cities in Fresno County to anyone and everyone who will look at us. And I think some of the council members have been to some of these trade shows, right? And so it's not necessary for us to duplicate that or for the chamber. It's just how do we take some of that content and make it readily available here locally? So if there's anything to add to that.
I couldn't agree with you more, City Manager. And this, look at Kingsburg. Look what the EDC, they gave them that lead of T-Mobile, and Kingsburg just ran with it. When we get a lead, we just got to run with it. Those leads come along, gosh, very infrequently. We had the FCRTA. We ran with it. That maintenance facility, the city ran with it, helped that facility come up. Fowler's always out there looking. I just think we need to be out there actively looking, and the chamber can be our eyes and ears too, to get those businesses to call them and say, hey, I'm looking to put a distribution center, 26,000 square feet or something. Well, you got it. Let's get together with the city. DB User used to be really good on that. When he got a lead, boy, he would jump right on that with his economic development background. And I think we need to cultivate that as well too, and use all of our sources to get those leads so we can get those businesses to come to Selma.
Thank you. Just really quick here.
I mean, you could even put a hyperlink of the city on the chamber website if they would agree to do it, and if that would make sense.
Yeah, I know our economic development manager has been working on a good, statistical package that we can put out there. So like if somebody is looking at Selma for a business attraction or business expansion, they can see what our population is, what our per capita income is, all those things that are relevant. And so if we can put something like that on the chamber's website, but again, it requires a website that's navigable and that's updated and those kinds of things, right? And I think Ms. Tucker mentioned that they're looking at bringing in somebody that can help with that. What are we looking now at? Events, if you could skip to the event, City Clerk. Oh, yeah, go back to that last slide with the bubbles, with the events. There we go. So what we were presenting here was, we're more than happy to help sponsor these major events to make them as impactful as possible. But what that sponsorship would entail is not just the opportunity for the city's logo and brand to be displayed, but also to facilitate, city representatives, the city council to participate in those events, generating high quality content, photographs, social media content, and video creation, right? Because we want to be able to create a historical record as well as marketing pieces for these huge events. If we put a video on our website or on the chamber's website that shows, thousands of people at the Raisin Festival, it's going to create a sense of, a desirability in the community. People are going to want to be at these kinds of events and live in Selma because there's these kinds of things happen. But that requires very concentrated resources, right? We need to be able to focus on developing that brand and that image. And so our goal is to help the chamber kind of develop that for the city staff to participate, not take over. I mean, the chamber has that event coordination down, and that's their jam. That's what they do. It's just how can we come in there and provide more resources so that you can expand how much we're leveraging out of those events.
I don't want to throw a monkey wrench in this, but I mean, you know, when I brought this up a couple of city council meetings ago, I brought this up because, you know, I walked the carnival, I walked and just kind of seen it, and I said, you know, what does it take? And Councilman Guerra said it best, you know, what can we do to add to make it look better, look, you know, just thrive, right? So I said, well, let's just see if we can add 5,000 and see what we can do to, you know, paint it up and, you know, paint the trash cans, do things, and then I actually looked at what we proposed to them. And I'm, by saying that, I'm gonna throw a wrench in here, but looking at what we're asking and what we need and 5,000. Doesn't that, and I'm just telling the council, doesn't that look like we're giving them 5, but we're giving them 5, but we're adding 15,000 of asks, right? And I want to be honest, because right now we're actually talking about the budget. So to me, I would look at it and say, well, if you're gonna ask for X, Y, and Z, and you're gonna give them 5,000, is that really not appropriate? Because it is appropriate, because we're raising the bar, but raising the bar has a cost. So I would ask staff to actually go back, and you might give me a 5,000 because we threw that number out there, but is it a realistic approach by looking at all your needs of what you're asking the chamber for? And is it a real approach of cost factor? Have you actually looked at what the actual cost is gonna be for that, for the asks? Because what if it turns out that in reality, by giving them 5 and asking for these requirements, it's actually gonna cost them 15. So they're gonna be in a negative 10. So when we talk about these approaches, again, what I'm asking for a little more deeper analysis on what the actual cost factor, on what the requests are, because at the end of the day, we'll get a true number. So when we go to budget, if we have to increase it we can make sure that the field is level, we understand what we're talking about. My own opinion.
Would you, along those lines, would you like to see maybe a line item budget for each event that details, you know, for this event, you know, 2,000 for this and 1,000 for this, and, you know, so that we're more specific? Or
Just trying to, right now we're in the conversation factor, and, you know, I know that we brought up the number 5 because I had requested it, maybe, or, you know, whatever. Or maybe we're not, maybe you guys thought that 5,000 is and reflecting the asks, right? And it would actually give me more, it would allow me to feel a little more confident that we are putting the Chamber of Commerce on a level field, that things are level, right? It's like saying, hey, I'm asking you to do X, Y, and Z, but I'm giving you 5 grand. Well, yeah, X, Y, and Z might cost me 15. So they're gonna be in the red 10. So I want to be able to see that if I could.
understood. Thank you.
But normally those events are considered, what do you call it? Legacy
Events.
events, so they get everything waived, correct?
Yeah, as
Pretty
far
much.
as the application fees and all of
Yeah.
that. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, so this would be on top of those waivers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can see council member's perspective, Councilmember Trujillo's perspective, where, you know, if we're asking for high quality photos, video content production, you know, if that's all gonna cost $8,000, is $5,000 reasonable to budget for this event specifically? So, but if there's, Councilmember Guerra, do you have any maybe suggestions as the events go?
No, I think, yeah, just bringing us, you know, like you're saying, total
Line item
what's
budget.
costing, so we know we can make a much more sound decision in regards to, is that being fair in regards to giving them 5, 6, you know?
Mayor Pro Tem Cho, as far as events go, I know you're really involved with the events. Is there, and Ms. Tucker as well, who's still in the audience, is there a specific maybe cost or expenditure in these events that right now you're having trouble meeting, that maybe we can incorporate into a proposal as far as the city helping to fill that gap?
I think as these events like, are fun, the one that do make money usually is our Raisin Festival and our, crab feed, but then like the car show usually is not, a moneymaker for us. It's basically is a community, event for the city. And the July 3rd also. We were lucky enough to have some major sponsor last year, but I don't know if we're gonna have one, but usually it's like a major sponsor is $5,000. Our fireworks usually cost us about $21,000. So, with the receipts from the ticket sales and our program, that's what pays for the fireworks. So it's not like a big money maker for us at all. Okay, we make some money in the, what do you call it, parking the cars. So it's, but it's for the community. It's like, we're not out there to make, money. But like you say, the $5,000, that would help if if we don't get a big sponsor for the fireworks. And every year the fireworks been going up. So 21, $1,000 is not a little small change, we do have to make that to provide that, event. Santa's parade, basically, we don't make probably any money on that one also. So, I mean, any money coming along would be great because, that'll give us, maybe could be able to buy, like we give the kids money. We used to buy toys, but money for the winners, usually 2 girls and 2 boys. So, if we have more money to work with, we can do more also. So, and, like say, it's not a whole lot, Chamber doesn't make a lot of money to the thing, so that you're right. What we're doing basically is for the community and the people, so that's our purpose at this point, but, we're ready to go, they say, if we can continue on talking and we, move up and expand our, reach is good. So that, and you're willing to help, that's good also.
City Manager, I have a quick question, since we brought up the the 3rd of July event. Let me ask you, does the school charge the city for having that event there at the high
Okay.
school?
No, I don't believe we
No?
pay anything.
Okay. My next question is because this is what came up. People were complaining that they blocked off the benches so no one can sit on them. They had them all blocked off. And a lot of people are used to coming in with, not coming with chairs and lawn chairs, and then they found out that they couldn't sit on the benches or on the bleachers. So is that going to continue to happen? Can we get clarification in regards to that? Because
I think the decision made was done by the school board, right? I mean,
Yes, that is correct. That was the requirement of the school district was to shut that down. So that wasn't the chamber or the city. It was within
School
the
board.
school district.
Okay.
Yes, correct.
So then the citizens really need to go and complain to the school board, or should the people putting on the event there? Because that's not a good look. That's not a good look to Selma at all, that you're blocking off the bleachers and no one can sit on them. And then they're not aware that you have to bring your own, chairs, because some can bring them, some don't bring them, and that's just not a good look for Selma. I mean, people are gonna say, I'm not gonna go to that event anymore. I'm just gonna go to Fowler's.
So I can tell you that the city is the one that organizes the use of the facility for that event. That is something that I can bring up again.
Yeah.
And we did fight that last year. Unfortunately, that was not a battle. It's their property, so ultimately we had to go with what they say. But I'm more than willing to bring it up again
Yeah.
and request.
No,
a
I
change to that.
get it's theirs, but it's the taxpayers' property.
But,
And- Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, we're in the discussion mode right now, right? And what's come out of this is that the council has come out that the chamber feels there's a disconnect, lack of communication. I'm gonna go back what the mayor said is, let's downsize this and let's bring it down to the original people. Maybe because of, I have almost a whole page of of comments in regards to the 3rd of July, which kind of reads to me that there was a disconnect and maybe not happy, right? So what I would ask is, as an elected official here and for the city, I think the best thing for the city staff and for the chamber to do is to become a little more, I think they need to organize sooner. I think they need to do the reach and the connection to the school board, the school sooner. But I also think that any decision that's being made for the 3rd of July needs to be headed by the chamber with the city's assistance. Because this is an event that they're doing, but we are assisting them. And I think that, I think communication is a key here. And so they can feel and we can feel that the community is getting the best product available. One thing I always will say is this, and I started this conversation that, I felt that, I was disappointed, but at the end of the day, I felt that the words were disconnect, right? There's a disconnect. And I think that we need to just we need to take another step forward and say, hey, let's get that communication with the school. Let's get with the school district and the school board and tell them, hey, you may say this, but the community doesn't want that. What can we do? What's alternative A, B, and C, right? And have the chamber and discuss it. Not where we just railroad it down and tell them, hey, well, where this is gonna happen. No, they need to be part of that meeting so they can understand, they can relay the message.
Yeah.
So,
And they always have been. It's always been the 3rd of July. I've always seen it be a very collaborative event organization. And I think what it came down to last year with regard to the bleachers was the cleanliness, people were spilling, snow cones and seeds and things like that. And I think it came down to a matter of the school staff having to clean those benches, the bleachers after the event. And so if there's a way that we can come to an understanding about how to address the cleaning of it afterwards, I think there might be an opportunity there. Yeah.
I agree. And just to plug real quick, part of my update when we come to regular council will be, I did meet with the superintendent of schools last week to start those conversations about how we can work together. We have some really cool programs coming out and things like that, because I agree, there are options and there are things that we can do to move forward. And it's exciting times because people are coming to the table and they're ready for that raising of that bar. So I do appreciate that.
Maybe you could also, Community Development Director, maybe you could also mention to the superintendent that they're still the school district's still charging for maintenance of that pool, that they very generously allow the youth of Selma to swim in, and seniors and the disabled to swim in during the summer. They're still charging for the maintenance, and that makes sense, because, they have an issue about cleanup and cleaning up. Just wondering if they might be able to wrap that into the, something that they donate this year for the city, because they've charged the same $1,800 every summer for like what, 11 years now? I mean, that's not reflective of the actual cost. Maybe they could get an actual cost or something on that.
You guys really are stealing my thunder for all of my updates. And I appreciate that. No, we will be discussing the pool. Unfortunately, the pool will be down this summer for refurbishment, so it will not be an option. So I will give more on that during my update.
We have about 5 minutes before the start of the open session. I just wanted to get to that last slide really quick. City Clerk, if you don't mind, the one that shows the organization and structure proposal. As Ms. Aguirre mentioned during her presentation, originally we had asked for 2 seats, but we're asking for 1 seat on the board. And I think that the chamber's position historically has been, well, you can always run, a city staff person can always run, to be on the board of directors, but really that leaves it up to chance. And for, oversight and accountability, we need to be able to have a fixed position there. And it's only 1 seat, we're not going to have a majority of any votes or anything like that. So I personally think that it's a reasonable ask, but if the council, decides otherwise, we can remove that requirement. Okay, I think it sounds like we're all in agreement about that ask. That really is all that staff has with regard to the chamber agreement. We'll coordinate with Ms. Tucker for a new meeting to discuss a proposal and hopefully come to an agreement about something that we can present to council for approval.
Great. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for the great discussion today, and thanks for the president of the chamber coming out. So with this, we'll bring it back and adjourn our special meeting and come back in 5 minutes for the opening of our Selma City Council regular meeting.